homework, right? Because it was 2 days worth because I goofed up, right? It happens. So we are on, what 2 pages was it though?
113, 114, 115.
113, 114, 115, 116?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to page 113, 114 first and see what kind of questions you might have had on that. 113, 114 questions you might, yeah.
Number 6.
6, you got it. Number 6 on page 113. So I have x squared minus 3x minus 54 equals 0, right? So we have to think about the factors of 54. So I think 9 and 6 both work. So 9 and 6 both work, where the 9 is negative and the 6 is positive. So I get x squared minus 9x plus 6x minus 54. Do you agree with that? And then what do I have in common here? I have an x, so that's x minus 9. And I can factor out a 6 on those. It's positive 6. So then I get x minus 9 and x plus 6. And it's equal to 0. So this gives me x equals 9. There's one answer. This gives me x equals negative 6 as my second answer. Yeah. 8, yeah. Are you okay with that one? 8. Number 8. We got 4x minus 12x, or minus 12 plus 2x equals 0. Okay, let's combine like terms. So 2x and 4x is 6x. Minus 12 equals 0. Add 12 to both sides. And then divide both sides by 6. So you get a single answer. What else did we see on page 113, 114 we'd like to better clarification on? We good on 113, 114? Okay, let's flip over the page to 115, 116. What questions did you come across on 115, 116? Yeah?
Number is 7.
7?
7.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it says solve by factoring each completely. So I'm going to bring the minus 1 over by going plus 1. So I get this. And this won't factor because it's not the difference of 2 squares. If it was x squared minus 1, it would be x plus 1, x minus 1. But that doesn't factor because it's x squared plus 1. So you can say won't factor. Done. Anything else off of page 115, 116? Yeah? 25? Okay, so they have this shape. Let's say it's this shape, if I could draw it. And they have it, one of the sides is 90, so they all have to be. So then they tell us that the, find the dimension of the figure. So they're saying that the area of this object is this, 61x squared. Ew. So I'm going to make it 361x squared minus 266x plus 49. 361 is a perfect square. And let's see, 361 is, let's see, 15 times 15 is 225. 16 times 6, 17 times 17. Someone have a calculator? You do?
Yeah.
What's square root of 361? 23 or something like that?
Square
root. It's a 2-digit number. Square root 361.
It says it's 13,000.
Oh, you went the other way. Square root, not square. So second of the x squared button. You want to do this.
Oh,
maybe 19? 19?
No, I got it. It's 19.
19, cool. So this is a perfect square, this is a perfect square. So this is a perfect square trinomial. So it's 19x minus 7 and 19x minus 7. So it's a perfect square trinomial is what it is. I will not give you one like this, but that's, so each side is 19x minus 7. But I won't give you one like that on a quiz. Anything else off those? You? 2, 3? Okay. So first thing we have to look at is, it looks like everything can be divided by 2. So I'm going to bring a 2 out front, so I get 9x squared plus, that's 24x plus 16. Now something to keep in mind, this appears to be a perfect square trinomial. Reason I say that is because 9x squared, the square root of that is just 3x, and 16 is 4. So I'm pretty sure that this problem is 3x plus 4 and 3x plus 4. Okay? And the only reason I saw that is I recognize 16 and 9x squared are perfect squares, and in this class a lot of times that means, hey, look, perfect square trinomial. And then set this equal to 0. Subtract 4. X equals negative 4 over 3. And you would have it twice because that would give you the same answer. So, cool.
And then what happens if you just leave it alone?
Just leave it alone, yeah. It doesn't affect the problem at all. That's what was wrong with this thing. Here we go. All right, anything else off those? All right, make sure your names are on those 2 pages and anything else you might be submitting, please.
Oh, please.
Am I good?
I thought it was on you. I was like, damn, boy, this is good.
I got it in front.
You do have guns.
Yeah, honestly,
Homework.
No.
I gave it to you yesterday.
And he gives you a lot.
Thank you.
Which one's on?
Homework over yonder. Thank you. Homework here. Yay. And homework here. Thank you much. All right, friends. Everyone have a copy of the notes? We're good? All right. All right, so we're going to start solving square root expressions. So there's other ways you can do it when you have 2 terms. So first off, let's take a look at this and realize, okay, we need to start breaking things down. Okay, so here's our hint. So if you look at this, you might recognize that 5 times 25 would be 125. Do you agree? What's the square root of 25? 5, so a 5 comes out, so I get 5 square root of 5 for an answer. That's done. That's a nice exact answer. And I know we had nice conversations about exact answers. And then maybe on this one, does anyone recognize a perfect square up here that is part of 72? I will tell you 9 is indeed a perfect square, but it's not the biggest perfect square. What 36 is. Good. So 36 is a big perfect square. So this is going to be 2 times root 36 times 2. Because 36 times 2 is 72. What's the square root of 36? 6. What does that 6 do with the 2 outside? Multiply. So I get 12 square root 2. Done. Okay? Now, when you get to this type of problem, it's sometimes easier just to break it down to the prime components because square roots under the square root sign, you look for the pairs and you take the square root of that. So I'm going to multiply the 5 and the 2 first. But then I'm going to realize that 15 is 3 times 5. And 20 is 5 times 4. And I guess I could have broken that 4 up to 2 and 2, but I think 4 is all right. So because I have a pair, because I have this pair, that's a perfect square, because 5 times 5 is 25, so the square root of 25 is 5. So that 5 joins the 10 out here right now. It'll be multiplied. But what about the square root of 4? That's 2. So 2 comes out. What's still left behind? 3. And then just multiply what you have outside. So 10 times 5 is 50. 50 times 2 is 100. I got 100 square root of 3. Okay, so we've been working with that. Though we've had goofy schedules because we had testing days and things like that. So, but that's what I got so far. Does anybody have any questions on those? So again, the perfect squares are good for you to hang on to. So we've solved trinomials before. Like you might be able to see this just with a quicker route. Realize this is x minus 4 and x plus 1, which gives me these as answers. X equals 4 and x equals negative 1. So we get 2 answers there. We've seen this before because I could do this as x plus 2 and x minus 2 because that's the difference of 2 squares. So this gives me x equals negative 2 and x is equal to positive 2. So I get 2 answers. Does anyone know the shortcut to write this answer? You can write x equals plus or minus 2 if you wanted to. And that would be the shorter version of writing that in case x equals 2 is too much work. All right, so now we get to this next one. I have x squared minus 20 equals 0, right? And I don't think 20 is 4 times 5, but that's not really going to help me out. But let's do this. Let's do our next step to do this. I'm not going to tell you what I did, but take a look. What does it look like I did to both sides? I added the 20. Everyone agree? So on your calculator, you have x squared and you have square root. X squared and square root, they undo each other. Okay, so I'm going to take the square root and I'm going to take the square root. Now, when I take a square root of both sides, I have to have a positive answer and a negative answer. Now, I can break this down to this, but I know that 20, if I did square root of 20, that's 4 times 5. Square root of 4 is 2, so I had 2 square root 5. So this answer is actually plus or minus 2 square root 5. Plus or minus means there's a positive answer and there's a negative answer. Okay? That means they're on either side of the vertex. You're a certain amount this way from the vertex, a certain amount this way from the vertex. Okay, so that's how we approach that first problem. Everyone feel okay with that? So let's see.
Wait, so what does your answer look like? It's 2 square root 5?
Right here. Plus or minus 2 square root 5. There's 2 answers. There's a positive component and a negative component. May I move on?
Yeah.
Jacob, you good? All right. So, there are 2 different ways that you can go about trying to solve this problem. Okay? So, the first way is get it equal to 0. So, if I were to bring this way, I can do this. What did I do to get there? How did I make it equal to 0? Where did the 5 go? I subtracted 5. And then this factors, because this is the difference of 2 squares, so I get x plus 2 and x minus 2. And then solve each equal to 0, so I get x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 2. So that's why I get 2 answers. You know, the plus or minus I had on the last one, I get a positive component and a negative component. So that's the first way I could solve this problem. Okay. Ready for me to move on? Let me show you the other way to solve this problem. Okay? We want to get x squared alone. So if I take this and I did this, what happened to the 1? I subtracted it. So 5 minus 1 is 4. And if I take the square root of both sides, right here, root, I'm going to get x is equal to plus or minus 2. Is plus or minus 2 the same answers as 2 and negative 2? Yeah. So which way is the right way to do it? I don't know. I think they both work, but sometimes a problem might be set up that down the left column is the better way to do it. Sometimes down the right column is the better way to do it. Okay? A-okay? Can I move on? All right. So remember, if you have to do a square root of both sides, you have to have two answers. There's a positive and a negative component. Okay? So if you go from this to getting this, this would result in a positive and negative square root. Now, it could be a perfect square. So like it was a 9, you'd get plus or minus 3 or something like that. So if you take the square root of both sides, on both sides of the equal sign, you get two answers. You get a positive component and a negative component. Happy day? I'll wait for the two Utes to come back in.
I'm almost on the lecture, but you're gonna miss the last part. Oh, well, why do you pen in the mathematics here? There's no way to done that. Sorry, I feel like dang it. What? Purple and anxiety. Purple and anxiety. What is anxiety? How do you get the definition of stuff?
Mr. Stowe.
Do you know how they got the definition of words? Like the definition of I don't know, a substance. Like,
The meaning of a word.
yeah, the meaning of a word. How did they get that?
I don't know.
Caveman.
I like that though.
You know how there were Aztecs and Mayans?
Mayans?
Ma-
Mayans.
Same thing.
Mayans.
Yeah, you know how they had like their own little language?
Yeah.
It like
How do they think what sound it is? How do they know what?
I don't know. Back in the day.
If we've never heard of dinosaurs.
Back in the day. Sorry to intrude on you.
How do we know what dinosaur sounds like?
I don't know. I imagine back then when they were grunting and moaning, you know, rock. Oh, rock. I don't know. I have no idea.
The brain named himself.
All right, can we move on? So remember, if we take the square root of both sides, you get two different answers. All right, so let's work through this one the same kind of way. So I want to start getting x by itself. So my first move, what did I do from here to right here? What just happened? Yeah, I added 32. Does that make sense? What did I do here? Yeah, I divided by 2. And then, remember, if I take the square root of both sides, how many answers are going to come out? 2. I have the positive and negative, and is the square root of 16 something easy? What's the square? 4. So, there's my two answers. Positive 4 and negative 4 are my answers. Am I on the back page? Okay. brain? Could be. I don't know. Can I move on? All right, so let's walk through this one. I want to start getting x by itself. So my first step is this. What did I do? Added 12. Everyone okay with that? My next step is this. So I divided by 3. Is that okay? And then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus minus. So I get plus or minus square root 8. Well, let's think about it. Can I break square root 8 down to this? And if I do this, what's the square root of 4? 2. So x equals plus or minus 2 square root 2.
Wait, you said if we square root it, we'll get the plus or minus. Do we have to square root it?
Yeah, definitely. Because it would not have factored.
Okay, but what's the point of the plus or minus?
Because when I take the square root, so like think of like difference to two squares. Okay, so let's just do this little side problem here. Let's say I had x squared minus 9 equals 0. Okay, that breaks it up to x plus 3 and x minus 3, which gives me x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 3. But let's say I did it the new way, where I took the same thing and did this. Because I added 9. If I take the square root, x equals plus or minus 3. Plus or minus 3, plus or minus 3. That's why there's two answers. So sometimes it will factor, which is great, but sometimes it won't.
Okay.
Can I move on? Good? All right, so talk to me. What's my first step?
Add 20.
Add 20, so I get to that. Do you agree? Is anybody stuck on that move? What's the next step? Divide by 2. Is everybody okay with that so far? We good? Yeah, so then I have to take the square root of both sides, and if I take the square root of both sides, the side with the number on it has to have the plus or minus. And can I break square root 20 down? Yeah, I heard 4 times 5. The reason I'm choosing that, not 2 and 10, is because 4 is the biggest perfect square. What's the square root of 4? Here's my answer. How many answers is that? 2. You have a positive component and a negative component. Everything going okay? All right, let's take a look at number 5. What's my first step? Subtract what? Subtract 27. Everyone agree? What's the next step? Divide by 3. Oh, excuse me. That's still x squared. Okay, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, so I get plus or minus. What's the square root of negative 9? Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9.
Positive.
Positive 3 times positive 3 is 9. We call these prime. This is not a real number. Okay? Meaning it will not cross the x-axis. When you get to algebra 2, the answer to this actually becomes this.
3C dot?
3i.
Oh.
I stands for the imaginary numbers.
Shut up, I hate you.
I agree. It's like it's supposed to be, because they don't want to make it an I like that. It's like a J backwards, but it's the I, and that's known as the imaginary numbers. But this is all you have to get to right here. Cool. Last slide, right? Oh, there's no more? I'm all done? Are you kidding me? Okay, cool. All right, so let's do page 117, page 118 for homework, okay? Now, my friends, there might be a couple of you that still need to finish up stuff. Let's see, anyone from here? Anybody in this class? I have a sneeze that wants to come out. Here it comes. Nope. All right, we're good? Everyone happy?